streaming. We're
We'll
good. We're on
confirm
everything.
on the YouTubes, on the phone.
The tube skis, just to make sure. So.
And we're back.
Okay, we're back. We want to thank everybody. Obviously, we had some technical difficulties there. Our Wi-Fi took a poop on us, but we are back.
China got us. That's what it was.
Yeah, China got us,
that.
as Larry said. I do, because I realized I haven't done it yet, I do want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for watching us, obviously, and implore you, if you're watching us on YouTube, like us, share us, leave a comment. If you're listening to this as a podcast later on, leave us a rating and a review. And if you screenshot the review and send it to us, I will send you a free signed T-shirt. You can follow us on all these things. YouTube, obviously, subscribe here. We have our Instagram at Salt of the Streets, our Facebook, Facebook at Salt of the Streets. saltofthestreets.com for all this information. We have our own personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both those things. You can find all this on saltofthestreets.com. Larry is at some combination of Larry the Tax Guy, Larry the Tax Man on Instagram and Twitter. He will be tagged in these things when we put it out there, so do not worry about that. You can also find Lim, what is it, atlasant.com? Is that where we can find your website?
Yeah, I don't have a website for my business.
No website. Okay. AtlasAnt, whatever. Somehow
You can find him.
we'll connect you with Larry if you want to get your taxes done. If you want to buy a house from him, we can probably hook you up with that too. We'll see what's up. He might only rent to you though. He's trying to sustain wealth. So we'll see what happens.
So right before we got cut off by China, Larry, we were
China?
talking about the media. We were talking about Brian Stelter in particular and how he got stomped the other day.
Yeah, so he was on C-SPAN. He kind of got trashed. He did the call-in show on C-SPAN. I don't know why, but apparently I just found out that they do volunteer to basically run through, host the show, et cetera, et cetera. He thought it was a good thing for him.
Did you not know that was a thing?
Yeah, is that like
No.
It's called like the Washington Journal, I think. And they do that every day. That's actually like a huge portion of what C-SPAN is. And there's one line for Democrats, one line for Republicans, and one line for independents. And
Really?
so, yep.
Wow.
So there are different numbers that you call, and they take calls. It's actually kind of a legit setup. I've watched it a lot, and they do this really cool overhead camera thing where they'll read an article and they have it printed out, and so they'll like underline things and point to them with their pen. It's pretty legit.
No, so I never seen it. So I heard that he was on it, and I heard he got crushed, and so that was awesome. But that brought into my whole point is like our mainstream media. We don't have a consensus around them, and I think without, I think we're gonna be in a terrible place where we can't actually have any conversations. And I don't know if it's purposeful, but I know that if we can't have any conversations, nothing's ever going to get better. Like we have two sets of people that aren't going to discuss, and the people in there who will discuss and who will listen are hated by everybody. And so it's just so frustrating because the kid on the Jen Psaki thing, I don't know why we don't have better question asking. Like I think there's answers that we'll ascertain, and they either don't know the questions, which cool, like I want a smarter breed, or they're basically aiding. They are accomplices with Jen Psaki and being the press secretary.
Yeah. So if I could add my 2 cents on to that, essentially.
No.
What we have here, fine, is we have Fox News, who is basically operating at this point, probably beforehand, on a level of a own the libs type of situation. That's what they do. And then every other network is a propaganda wing for the Democratic Party and supporting the current administration. Or you kind of have those roles reversed if the executive branch is reversed at that point. But what we do not have is we don't have a massive publicly available apparatus that's only goal is to hold our elected politicians and our government officials that are unelected accountable. We don't have that anymore. And that's exactly what the media was supposed to do all along. You can go back to just after the founding of the country, and you can read some of those old articles, and you kind of get an idea of that's what they're attempting to do, is hold these governmental entities accountable for the decisions they're making and what they're saying. And we don't have that anymore. And unfortunately, anybody that is trying to do that nowadays gets put into the boot box. They get censored, they get shut down because of due to the nature of how we communicate now, and it's 99% online at this point. And with those gatekeepers having the ability to just cut you off midstream if they wanted to,
Yep.
there's no way for dissenting voices to get out. I mean, nothing has illustrated that more clearly than the response to COVID. Anything.
Yeah.
Even to this day, we brought it up earlier before, that Dark Horse podcast with Brett Weinstein and I can't remember his name. Pierre Corey, who I watched that live stream. Actually, I don't know if I watched it live, but I watched it like that night or something like that. I watched it very recently, and it was one of the greatest podcasts ever about filling in this data. Crowder did a little bit of a job the other day talking about like Fauci's past, and basically it's ironic that everything that he did during the AIDS epidemic is almost a carbon copy of what he's done through COVID, and none of that information is allowed to get out to the public.
No.
And that's what we're dealing with here. We've got no accountability, and just we have a meme factory on one side and we have a propaganda wing on the other side, and then we got people like us stuck in the middle.
And I think you kind of see that with the Fauci emails, right? Obviously, we can dig into that. But then you have the Trump at the church, like he actually didn't tear gas them for the photos, for this photo thing.
Right.
And then Joe Biden's son.
Inspector General report that just came out. And not to interrupt you, but just so we can, because I'm sure because of the nature of what it is, a lot of people didn't hear about it, right?
Yep.
There was an investigation by the Inspector General who was kind of, the easiest way to do it is like he's like the detective for the country, does all the digging, the internal investigations for the government. And that's, I'm sure there's a million people that would be like, you're a fucking idiot, but that's the easiest way to kind of describe it. And so the Inspector General did a report on that event and some events surrounding it, and found that Donald Trump had nothing to do with the clearing of the protesters from Lafayette Park on his way over to go into the photo shoot, the fucking stupid ass photo shoot in front of the church.
Where he held up the
right?
Bible and the whole thing.
One of the funniest things, this is such a good example of this, right? After that happened, it was like either on the same day or a few days surrounding when all of those congressmen, senators and congressmen wore the kente cloths and then took a knee, in the house and did all those things, right? My mom comes over to my house after both of these things happen.
This is going to get good.
And I don't remember what we're talking about. She always will hit me about something political right before I'm going to leave the house, like when she's going to watch Dax, So she's asking about something, probably about the church thing, because we started talking about that. And I was like, it's crazy that you're saying this to me, because not like so weird, but I'm like, it's literally crazy you're saying this to me, because Donald Trump holding the Bible in front of the church, as stupid as it was, is the exact same thing as this picture of them kneeling in the kente cloths. Said, but the worst thing about it is they didn't even do the research into where these cloths came from, because these cloths are from tribes that sold other black people.
Yeah.
So it's worse. So then it's crazy to me that that's not what you're talking to me about. That you're talking to me about a decision that we, at the time, we don't even know how it happened, but he ended up over there taking a picture, and there's no protesters anymore. Like, however it happened, but this is the thing you're talking to me about.
Headlines: Donald Trump authorizes tear gas to be used on peaceful protesters to clear out for a photo shoot.
She didn't even know about the kente cloth thing, like that they were from a tribe that had sold black people. She didn't even know that. Mom, this is crazy that you're saying this.
And the media doesn't even have to come out and apologize for that stuff, because we're grossly undereducated. And Edward R. Murrow, who was one of the first people he was the one that went against the senator who was doing the Russian witch traces, basically.
Nunes?
No, this was way long ago. Oh gosh, it's gonna bother me. Senator MacArthur. He was the one that went toe to toe with Senator MacArthur way back in the day. And he even said it. He's just this can either be the greatest thing we ever did to TV, or this is going to ruin our society, right? Because with this, the power to captivate, you can either educate or you're going to degrade it. We've chosen to degrade, and it used to just be in our TV, right? Like we used to watch shitty TV that's not growing us, healing us, making us smarter. And now where the sources where we think we're going is not only do we not agree on the facts, right? Both sides do. They skew it to support the side they want to win. But at the same time, when they are caught out, there is no function to then force them to apologize to bit better or to do better. Like you have CNN actively saying they're pumping COVID because it was great for ratings. How is this supposed to inspire faith in anything you say, though?
Yeah. And I mean, and even on that note, I mean, that really being only revealed by Project Veritas, and the amount of people that are going to hear Project Veritas or James O'Keefe and then just instantly tune out because they've been trained to think that he is just some conspiracy theorist who pushes a bunch of edited videos and lies all the time.
100%. Right? And listen, I get it because I'm a conspiracy theorist now. Because like the vaccine came out, and I was just like, I was just like, I remember someone was just like, why aren't you going to take the vaccine? And I was just like, I was like, do you want? I said, do you want NyQuil? And he's just like, what? I was like, do you want some NyQuil? He's like, no. I was like, why? He's like, I don't know what it is. I was like, do you feel okay? He's like, yeah. I was like, would you take NyQuil? I was like, no. I was like, why? He's like, 'cause I don't need it. I was like, that's how I feel about the vaccine. Like, I am not at risk. But like now that I've said that, I've now been grouped in with like a group of conspiracy theorists. Like, oh, you're anti-vaxxer. Like, no, I have all my vaccines. I have a shot.
You might as well be QAnon at this point.
But you're black,
100%.
Larry. Don't you know that because you're black, like COVID more? You know? Don't you know?
Yeah, 100. Yo, listen, I got crushed when I said, because like people were like, oh, black community did it, right? Because like no help. I was like, it's because the black community is fat as fuck.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, the people are just, they're like, oh, how dare you? I was just like, no, we're unhealthy. Like,
When isn't it weird that at the same time that in the 48 hours that the federal government admitted that we're telling you not to wear a mask because you don't need them, we need to preserve what we have. Because I try and harp on that as much as I can, there was a small window in time which the federal government did actually admit, like, no, we just need what we have for the first line workers, right?
100%.
Around that same time, for like the same amount of time, they were like, one of the reasons this is hitting African Americans so hard is because they were like fucking soul food, right? They're like, I mean, just a huge amount of people in the black community that just eat like shit, that don't take care of themselves. Diabetes is a huge level, like all these things. Like also, like people don't like to go to the doctor, like all this shit. There was this small window of time in which they said this, and then they were like, we have no idea. It's just crazy that there, it's health disparities and all these things. No talk about comorbidities or, an increase, like I said, increased rate of diabetes or any of this shit. Doesn't matter. It's not even relevant, right?
No,
it was so weird.
It's super frustrating. And again, like, that's what makes me upset. Like, now we have, like the flip-flopping, like this whole COVID thing has just made me more
this whole
cynical.
COVID thing.
Yes. It's
Like,
hard not to be more cynical after it. It really is.
And that's what it is. Like, and I feel terrible. And this is why I don't talk. Because like, people get emotional. People lost people. Like, this is obviously a serious thing. But like, I'm a firm believer is we can hold two thoughts in. I can be like, hey, this is super serious, and Fauci fucking sucked to this.
Yep.
Like, this is a serious thing, and if you need the vaccine, you should get it. But also, Dr. Fauci should apologize from Rand Paul for absolutely lying and then using the media to desecrate him as a way to win. Like,
I don't know whether or not he had to swear in during those hearings or not, but if he did, he fucking perjured himself like 9 times
100%.
over, and no one gives a shit.
Yeah,
like,
we
don't
talk about that.
I have. This is the final clip that I have.
Oh,
it's
perfect.
about Dr. Fauci and things, so we can talk about that a little bit, right? We talked about, obviously, just days after the last time we recorded, a bunch of emails were released that were not... They keep the leak, right? They keep... All these media companies are like, the Fauci emails that were leaked, they were received by BuzzFeed and a bunch of other companies through Freedom of Information Act requests.
Yep.
Totally
Oh,
legitimate,
yeah.
totally legal, happens all the time. Anybody can do it for any reason. You could have done it. Well, you didn't because no one fucking cared. They got 3,000 plus emails of Dr. Fauci's, right? And there's like, I keep seeing all these articles, the 7 big things to draw from this. There's like a lot of shit that came out in this, right? One of the many things being, they knew that like masks didn't work the way that they were saying they were. They knew that it was largely people with comorbidities, like it wasn't young, healthy people were not at risk, like a lot of things. There was an email about from scientists saying that they thought that it was potentially lab leak was like the way this came. All of this information coming out. And
Mark Zuckerberg.
What's that?
Mark
He had to
Zuckerberg.
email Mark Zuckerberg.
Really?
Yeah, and part of it was redacted, which I think is kind of bullshit. But part of it, his email with Mark Zuckerberg's redacted as well. Sorry, you can continue, but
No. And so there's obviously a lot of question about this. Jen Psaki continues to write it off. It's like, they were 17 months ago. It's why would we worry about ourselves about something that happened 17 months ago?
Because that was the fucking beginning. Why, Jen Psaki? Because we want to know why we're here now. So we go back and we try to examine the beginning of things. You lying piece of shit.
It's awesome. It's really
It's
awesome.
She's the same person saying like, "Hey, we're still in a pandemic. Everyone still wear your mask, but
Yep.
like it doesn't matter at the beginning of the pandemic because we're
Yep.
still here." Like,
Yeah. She was, let's see, regarding lab leak via Fauci emails, and so we launched an internal review to find the origins of COVID. So it doesn't really matter because we're doing our own independent investigation. That was on the 3rd. On the 4th. Oh, and this is the question about the origins of COVID and Fauci's emails. So we'll play this video. And this is Jen Psaki regarding COVID origins and Fauci emails.
I'm so excited.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Would the president support a commission to investigate the initial U.S. response to COVID-19?
A commission in Congress?
Or a presidential commission?
I would say if members of Congress have a discussion and want to have a discussion about that, we're happy to hear from them. But our focus right now, as you know, Peter, is on our own internal investigation, or our internal process, I should say, using all of the resources of government, tapping into our data and science experts to see what more we can determine over the next 90 days or less than 90 days about the origins of the pandemic.
Mike Pompeo is now saying that when he was the Secretary of State and he was trying to investigate the origins of COVID-19 there, the NIH folks were trying to suppress what he was doing. So is there any concern from the White House that there may have been people at the NIH who are making policy decisions based not in science, but based on their personal political beliefs or preferences?
Well, I really don't have any analysis of the last administration's working.
I don't know.
You see how they operate.
Here's what we know, Peter. We know that Dr. Fauci
Peter.
And many
Peter.
members of the NIH team, medical and science experts, because of their work over the last 10 years, we have developed a focus and
Fauci.
effort and apparatus to fight this pandemic, and we are grateful to them for their work. Everybody wants to get to the bottom of the origin. Former Secretary Pompeo, President Biden, Democrats and Republicans across the board. We all share a concern about the challenge, and that is the intransigence at times by the Chinese in providing data and providing information. We share agreement on that. We all want to get to the bottom of what happened here.
Now,
You mentioned Dr. Fauci. There have been these emails that have come out through a FOIA request that make it seem like we knew that he had his hands full at the time trying to figure out what to do. But it seems like there were times that he was saying one thing in email and then coming to this microphone and saying something else. If that is the case, and if that affected the U.S. policy posture at the time, should he be held accountable?
hard yeah.
Well, I've talked a little bit about Dr. Fauci, and Dr. Fauci has been out doing several interviews himself and
Every
answering
day.
questions on these emails and questions that you all may have. Dr. Fauci is a renowned public servant, civil servant, I should say, career civil servant. He's overseen management of multiple global health crises, and the attacks and attacks launched on him are certainly something we wouldn't stand by. I understand there's interest in the emails. He's answered a lot of questions on the emails. I don't think I'm going to have much more to add on them from here.
Do you think the attacks are political against Dr. Fauci?
I'm going to let Dr. Fauci speak to his own defense of his emails from 17 months ago before this president even took office.
Okay, and then finally,
He's under
does
your
President
employee. You're
Biden
paying
have
him.
Thank you.
a
You didn't have to keep him. You didn't fucking have to
gain-of-function
keep him.
research.
Well, we have not, as Dr. Fauci has actually said repeatedly, we've never approved any funding for gain-of-function research in Wuhan. I know that's, I think, why you're asking the question. I believe some may have been approved, or there was funding approved during the prior administration. There's a framework, I should say. This is not meant to be a criticism of funding and how it's approved through different NIH programs, but I would send you to them to give more of an explanation of the funding mechanisms.
And just since you mentioned Dr. Fauci again, can you imagine any circumstance where President Biden would ever fire him?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. So,
Hard no.
obviously, the last point, no.
I'm glad she gave a straight answer to one question.
One question at least.
So you're telling me there's nothing he could do in which you would consider firing him?
No.
It's crazy.
No
Also,
hesitation. No.
Her deal about we've never approved funding for gain-of-function research, but the money that already we know has been going to there, we have allowed to continue to go to there because we allowed it to continue to flow to the Wuhan lab again. So we've never approved it, but we allowed it to continue after it was stopped previously by the previous administration 17 months ago before we were even here. So that's hilarious.
Just random things.
And she's like, and that's why she has to throw that caveat of, you know, and I'm not taking shots or whatever. She said, like, those are just the processes, because they're under the same exact processes that's allowing that funding to go back to the Wuhan lab. Right now, American dollars are being pushed. They're not forcefully. They're being accepted by the Wuhan lab to continue research.
Yep.
Yes.
We have already seen that money, American dollars, have been subcontracted through the Wuhan lab to gain-of-function research. Why would we not assume the same fucking thing is happening right now? Because the woman who was conducting that research, whatever her name is, the Bat Lady of Wuhan, I don't know if you guys have heard her be called this, right? Yeah. She's doing the same shit. The same shit is going on in China. They don't give a fuck. So the same thing is happening right now.
Oh, I can't remember. What was the name of that intermediary company? It was like the United Earth Alliance or something like that.
Yeah. And she talked about it. She said their name in there. But it's the same thing is happening right now.
The same fucking thing. And there's the Bat Lady.
Yeah, and so she repeated a couple of different times. She repeated a couple of different times throughout these couple of days, you know, that it was 17 months ago. Like you said, you're still paying him. He still works for you.
He's still the highest paid government employee to date. More than the president. Damn near twice as much in an annual salary as the president of the United States. He fucked it up back in the 80s, and he's fucking it up now. People have died because of it, and there's nothing I can foresee why Joe Biden would ever want to fire him.
Larry.
Nothing.
You're in the Army. So let's say, super hypothetical, never happened. Let's say 2 years ago you deployed to some random fucking country, got a bunch of people killed, civilians, right? But no one found out about it till like tomorrow. Yeah. Do you think that your CO is just not going to give a shit?
That's what's crazy to me. It's like the only difference between Fauci and the people in the Senate, between him and Joe Biden, is that Joe Biden was elected to office. That's the only difference. He's a politician. Like, that's what I don't like blanket statements like that. I don't like people who specific there. And like, again, the problem with Fauci, let me phrase that. My problem with Fauci is that he's perpetually just flip-flops his stance on everything. Like, he's answered everything duplicitous, and now we have all these emails that literally came out to say, like, hey, like, what he thought was going on, it's just pompous. It's just for show. Like again, like that whole thing, like, is frustrating. I can't not leave it alone, because again, like, the cover up for him makes me wonder what we're doing. Because again, he did an empirically bad job. Like, not just me, not just political pundits, but like other epidemiologists are coming out and saying, like, not that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but saying that, like, he's a politician.
This was shit.
Yep. And then getting silenced because they're going against Lord Emperor Fauci.
100%. And then
the Oracle Fauci.
100%. And he said, like, an attack on me is an attack on science. If that's not the saddest ego I've ever heard in my life, like, he is at the center, even though he's done no actual amount of clinical research forever. He's literally just distilled down a message for our politicians. But like, he is science. Again, he thoroughly frustrates me.
Yes. I think that at the end of the day, if you were going to, we talked a little bit about this on the fishing trip. I had a couple conversations with Daniel and some other guys about this concept of whether or not evil, as we kind of colloquially know it, can truly exist within people. And if you would have asked me that 6 months ago or a year ago, I probably would have said probably not. But after what we've gone through and what we've seen these people that hold power within unelected offices and the choices that they make for purely what appears to be purely personal reasons, I have a hard time saying that evil does not exist, because these people, if you can assign evil to anybody, it's these people that are instilling fear on a massive scale and are bullshitting us every step of the way just so that we do what they want to do and keep themselves in power by keeping us in fear.
No, 100%. Like, this was all, like, call what you want to, but it was a power grab. People have been in Congress or in power have just been grabbing for more power, right? Like, that's why I don't like the stimulus, because it enacts more control, or their ability to control more of what our day-to-day life looks like, and that's not what it was supposed to be like.
Yep. It is a fundamentally anti-American principle. The fact that a centralized power can control what we do as liberal individuals, as freedom-loving individuals that hold to a specific set of inalienable rights and respect for common man. We are now at a point where we are basically just the proles doing what we are told to do by the centralized power.
Yeah.
And it is so unhealthy, and the media runs cover for it, everybody runs cover for it, and they try to justify it to every end they possibly can. But it's the only way that I could see all of this in retrospect as we step back and look what happened to us over the last year and a half. I mean, the fact that this guy, there's nothing. Is there anything that you could foresee to remove Fauci from his job? No. The first and only time you're ever going to get a straight answer from Jen Psaki is when she said, no, we're not going to fire Fauci, period.
Yeah.
Full stop. That's not happening.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the frustrating part. Like,
And he should have been fired decades ago, for God's sakes.
I had never heard of this man until he became the center of my life, right? Until people literally started praying to Dr. Fauci. But
It's just because we're not old enough, really.
100%.
Right.
But with the way that we've bungled everything else, I could see how people hate him. But like, just like from this one case study, he did not. A, he was political in nature, but B, like, again, he had it didn't seem like he had a plan. And that's super frustrating. And then because he was discombobulated, like we literally almost had I felt like a fucking civil war over the fucking mask issue. Yep. When and then he has the audacity to say in an email, like, oh, like, you don't have to wear a mask, like, they don't work. Like, I don't give a shit that was 17 months ago. Like, you never said that publicly to everybody. So that means you've never taken that hard a stance. And then, like, you flip, and like that's the kind of stuff that irks me. It's just like, he's not here for us. And again, I don't like big government, because again, they ultimately don't care about us, because it's always going to be like, hey, we're going to sacrifice you for the greater whole. We're always going to rob Peter to pay Paul. We are always going to provide for the greater good. But the craziest question that you can ask a person is how do we quantify or qualify the greater good? Like, how do we know what it is? Is it the greater good according to you? Is it the greater good according to me? Is it according to Don, Colin? Like, who is to decide the greater good?
I mean, you can listen to me. That's fine.
Yeah, right? Like, I could do it. I'll dictate it all. But like, how do we decide if Janet's problem's bigger than Rick's problem? That's bigger than Robert's problem. Like there's no quantifying, because emotionally we grasp on the problems differently. Like, and so to then put everything on even level, and then to say that your problems aren't as bad because you're at a higher level than B, or you don't know any better because you don't understand it, or you can't listen to this epidemiologist because I deem he's not smart, or I deem that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, that's a very dangerous precedent. He literally stifled and shut down conversation with people who disagreed outside of him. And like, sure, Larry, you shouldn't talk because you're not an epidemiologist. I got you. But when I was reading, I forgot his name, but Harry from Harvard, and he's an epidemiologist from Harvard, or the guy from Stanford who put out a study that says masks don't work. Like, okay, well, now I have two people from T14 schools that are putting out verifiable data that they're verifying studies, but I still can't listen to them. So that's my problem.
Right, or Brett Weinstein, right, who, like the guy he had on there, Pierre Corey, was actively working on coronavirus on the front lines for the entirety of the pandemic.
Treating patients every single day.
And the idea that their information was labeled as spam or like possibly false information.
Yep.
Brett Weinstein is an evolutionary biologist. I believe that him and Pierre Corey, like I said earlier, have more than enough qualifications to speak and say anything they want about the coronavirus. And
at least it's nuanced.
And the idea that could be pulled off of YouTube, off of a public domain for people to enjoy and view as they want, to try and consume that information and better educate themselves on the reality of the world that they are living in virally, is deeply concerning.
Yep. And it's a fundamentally un-American concept. The idea that you must sacrifice for the greater good, removing the individual solely out of the equation and not letting anybody make their own decisions and intake whatever information that they want, knowing that can have deleterious consequences, and you can spawn the QAnon movement. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Knowing that can happen, you still need to allow Americans to make individually informed choices for good or for ill, because that is the great gamble of our republic. That was the whole concept, is for
Yeah.
people to live free from the tyranny of government and centralized control. And we have just walked ourselves step by step by step back to the arms of a centralized control. And you have never seen that illustrated more clearly than during the COVID crisis, because people, when they are afraid, will flock to a controlling, centralized power that makes them feel good about things.
The
right?
groups, it's like Larry was talking about.
Yeah.
You know, not knowing how much people need groups.
Yep.
Until they're
Tribalism,
scared, and they
you know?
don't
Yeah.
know what to do with themselves.
Every
100%.
human is tribal. You need people around. I had a conversation with Carolina yesterday about you and Jake. Kind of the talks that we had driving out and stuff like that. And, you know, I said, if I didn't, like, I don't know where I would be at in my life if I didn't have certain people in my life that could help me course correct when they saw me at a certain point. They said, you know, we got to steer you a little bit over here because we care about you, buddy, all this good stuff. That, in some tiny way, is a little tribe that I have of people.
Certainly.
Right? And as
No.
much as everybody likes to be individuals and all this stuff, you still need
Yes.
a tribe of some sort,
100%.
because we're
I
human
100%
beings.
agree.
And that as much as we may not like that, because we are so focused on the individual needs friends. They need family. And without that, you run to daddy of some sort. You run to the government. You run to whoever is going to give you that comfort.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done here.
No, I completely agree. And like you said, like you need to be able to have uncomfortable conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to be wrong. You need to be able to, like, you have to voice everything. And I think that's the only way that we're going to grow. And I feel like we're eliminating, it's never been easier to talk to each other, and we're eliminating the words we can say. And I find that very disconcerting.
That was very well put. We need to be able to speak to each other, and all we're doing is eliminating the words that we can say.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put that.
No, 100%. And I love that. I love that. It's pretty miserable, and it's crazy where, like, you guys are pushed out onto, like, before anyone could ever sample you, like, the powers that be at Facebook decided that people aren't able to then take and evaluate the ideas that you guys are pushing. Or, like, even for Brett Weinstein, like, it's just like, hey, like, sure, you have all these documentations, you have all these reasons that people should listen to you, but we don't think that the average person should be able to absorb what you're going to say.
Yep.
Because it does not align with us. And I feel like that's probably the scariest precedent. Like, I don't know if we're going to devolve because of it, but, like, that's literally anti what YouTube was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah. It runs 180 degrees counter to what YouTube was created to be.
100%.
And I don't know if there's a market for free speech. That's kind of the problem, right?
Yeah. I think Rumble's trying to be.
Yeah.
But I feel like right now, like, if you go on Rumble or if you go on Parler, like, you're just automatically labeled as a right-wing nut.
Yep.
And it's crazy.
You're just a white supremacist, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been crazy to be called a white supremacist. But, you know, I've made it through. I've pushed.
It's just self-hating black person.
Yep.
Yeah, just self-hating black person. Just like, I really just, want to put black people in chains. So that's been hard for me to get used to. But I've made it slowly but surely.
Who was that Romney that got accused of they want to put you all back in chains?
Yeah, that's a quote from Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hey!
Joe Biden said that.
To Mitt Romney, right?
About Mitt Romney
about
to
Mitt
a
Romney.
black
Yeah.
congregation at a church.
Oh boy.
That was emotional back then. I used to be a massive, I used to fucking love communism and socialism.
Oh,
Yeah, I've fallen from the tree of grace from socialism and Marxism. You used to think it was all because it sounds awesome. It sounds great in theory. Like everybody gets everything, and we'll just split down the middle.
yeah, sweet. Well,
So in theory, it's always good.
yep. And then when you're working that minimum wage job, when they decide to take out 50% of your paycheck, you think you're really
Yeah.
gonna appreciate that?
Like FICA. I've never met FICA, but I paid him out more money than I'll ever dream of my entire life. This dude's been at my fucking dinner table for fucking years.
Yeah.
Just never met him.
Never
I'll
met
never.
him.
We'll never meet him. Social Security, there's no way in hell. if I
Living
can be
rent
it.
free in your house.
Yeah, Social
In my
Security
head,
will
too.
have been born and died before we'll ever meet them.
It's
Oh.
terrible.
All right, Larry. Well, I think since we've kind of been going for a while here, I think it is time to unveil, if you are indeed ready, your theory that you tried to lay out for us a little bit on Thursday.
All right. So
Are you prepared for this?
If you're not
It's-
ready, we could delay.
we're gonna have to delay. I was literally, I've been thinking about it. I wrote it down. I was trying to get it in. I don't think I'm ready. I think the best time, I think in August, if you guys will allow me to come on, it's 2 months away. I'll have everything prepared,
Deal.
ready to go in that moment.
Deal.
Larry, you have an open invitation to my house at any time, at any point, and just so happens the studio's here too. So we could
well,
definitely
I can't
make
wait
that
to see the
happen.
setup. No,
It's the Dr. Seuss house, so it's exciting.
I'm amped. I'm amped. So yes, August I'll have it for you in all its glory and its craziness and slight bit of conspiracy. It's also going to go into Don how I think the dollar's the bubble, not the housing market. We'll cover it all.
Fantastic.
Deal.
Well, then let's break down one concept, which I know this will be a precursor to something that you'll have to have an understanding for when we talk about this. Can you explain to people what fractional banking is?
Fractional banking. Okay. So fractional banking is
Good
just-
foundational concept.
It is. It's definitely, it will lead in. So fractional banking is what banks can do to lend money. So banks only make money when they lend money, right? They give you a loan. That interest that you pay on that loan is the income they receive. So the question is, okay,
The
where does
profit,
that,
if you will.
yeah, their profit, right? Their revenue, profit after expenses. And so the question is, where do they get the money to lend? So they get it from you. So what happens is me, Don, Colin, all put our money in the bank. We put $100 in. There's $300 in the bank. So in theory, you're like, okay, well, the bank can lend $300. And so the question's like, okay, well, what if we want all 300 of our dollars back? Well, originally there would be a bank run, right? So banks weren't supposed to lend money that they got. They're supposed to collect a profit from like services they provide and then lend that money to compound. What they allow us to do in America, it says, hey, you don't actually have to keep their money. You can lend up to 90% of that out for profit. So the fractional banking is that although on our bank statements it says $100 in each of our account, on the other account for the bank it says you have $270 to lend. So they've turned the $300 into $570. So they're taking parts of that fractional banking, fractions of that, and then lending it out to other people. This is inflating our dollars inherently by them ability, like expanding the money supply. At the same time, right, obviously killing our dollar. At the same time, it's putting us at risk because if we ever all wanted our money at once, you could not go get it.
There literally isn't enough paper money for everyone to go to the bank and pull out all of their cash at one time. There
100%.
literally doesn't exist enough paper money for that to happen.
Yes.
And that is something we saw happen during the Great Depression, if I am correct, right? There was a
Yes.
run on the banks.
And
People
in
ran in there,
Venezuela.
tried to pull out all their money, and they go, well, we don't have it.
Yeah.
We lent it. It's in the movie, the Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. There's a great scene about that at the very end. Everybody's worried about pulling their money out and all this stuff, and he's like, wait, guys, how much do you actually need to get through? Because otherwise the bank goes under, and then nobody gets any money at all. And so, there he is giving out as much money as he needs, blah, 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 and he ended up essentially saving the town that day. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, I'm about to watch that after this. I'm about to fucking let that fill my veins.
So
But yeah.
good.
So
Such a
that's
good
fractional
movie.
banking, and that will go into I'm gonna try to build this out into five parts to explain it.
Deal.
Ooh.
And the ending, the conclusion. This is all why I invest in crypto and houses, right, or hard assets.
So what you're
You got like
saying
10
is,
cars.
You got like
Well,
10 cars.
Never cars. I hate cars. I'm still trying to get you to sell your truck.
Right.
I gotta get a canopy for my truck.
There you
Need
go.
more truck things.
I need more truck.
I know which company not to go for that canopy, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
I need one for camping, bro. I don't like.
that's true.
I was thinking originally. This is super off topic. I was thinking originally of like a tunnel cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's also called a tonneau cover. Did you know that? It's
Yes,
not
tonneau cover.
Okay, until I looked it up, I thought it was a tunnel cover.
Oh, for
Because
real?
what the fuck is tonneau? What the fuck does that mean?
I just always
I
assumed
would
it was
never
some
have
kind of name
yeah,
brand.
no, that's
Yeah, I
stupid
would say I
as
would
fuck.
never done that.
Yeah, I thought it was a tunnel cover. It's a tonneau cover,
Yeah.
which is stupid.
Tonneau cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stupid. But then the last time we went camping, I realized that we have too much stuff with the three of us to fit
Oh, yeah.
flat like that. So we need a canopy so that we can put all of our bins in there because we camp out of the enormous Rubbermaid bins, which
They're
is
legit.
the
They work
system
good.
to go with, especially in that big cabin tent.
Yes.
And then to load a shitload of wood in the back end. You know, that's the other thing, is to be able to put wood and all of our stuff in the truck bed. Larry, when was the last time you went camping?
Does the military count? Because I feel like I go to
No.
the
Hard
field
no.
all the time.
No,
Hard no.
doesn't count.
It has to go for fun.
That's an oxymoron. Listen, this is what I'm gonna tell you guys. I camp for the military, and I used to camp for like 10, 14 days at a time. And so, like, I was like, I'm never going. But you guys want to go fishing? I will get on.
Have
that
you
boat.
ever
There we
been
go.
camping? Like
Once
for
in
fun?
the third grade. Once in the third grade, we went up to Forks, Washington.
With your
for-
family?
No, my family is not a camping family. We are indoor cats. We are inside animals. I went with my friend Curtis Reeves. Went camping. I wish I went more, but again, I am not made for the wilderness.
Let's go camping together.
Yeah, I'll take you guys out in the wilderness. We'll have a great time.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I can survive because of the military. Like, looking back, super fortunate I went to the military. It really evened me out, taught me some skills I did not know I was deficient in. That being said, I mean, I'll go. Like, I'm not afraid to camp. It's just like I don't love camping, and then like my family doesn't love camping, so we're not like organically gonna go. But like, I'm not scared of anything but spiders and snakes.
And your wife doesn't ask you to go camping? She's not a camping gal?
She would like to go camping, but she doesn't ask because like
She
it's
doesn't.
not-
She knows better. She knows. She knows better than to goddamn ask.
Yeah, she knows who she married. I have been super. I'm fairly consistent. I think
No
that's
swimming,
probably the
no
best
camping.
Well, listen, I'm a swimmer. I'm basically Michael Phelps now. After my one day, after I got these long arms,
Yep.
so you can't even see them on the screen. They're so long.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
I'm basically Michael Phelps.
So I
you-
remember
Yeah,
the
go
first time I ever had to swim a mile.
Jesus.
All I'm going to say is if you've never swam a mile before,
It's far.
you might want to. It's a long time.
Farther than you think
And
it is.
I am 6'4" and I am all arms and legs. All right, my torso is about 2 feet.
Yeah.
That's about it. Finding clothes is difficult.
You are all legs, dude.
And I am all legs and my wingspan is basically an albatross.
Yeah.
That has helped me greatly when it comes to swimming. And let me tell you, a mile, 5260. Is that 5260? I think. How many feet are in a mile?
Oh, I thought you meant 52 minutes. I was like, that's a
No.
fucking long time, bro.
It takes a while to swim.
It does take. Yeah, it takes a while.
It takes a
That's
while.
all right.
So
Listen, my
there's a
Ironman
lot
goal.
going on there.
Yeah, my Ironman goal is 17 hours.
To do the whole thing in 17 hours?
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything for 17 hours.
Yeah, you fucking do, baby.
No.
You want that fucking.
Did you ever hear, Larry? And I wish I could remember why this was being reported, but it was about. Oh, I know we talked about it on here. It was about why black people don't go into the woods and like trying to get more like incentivizing black people to go to state parks. Like, do you remember talking about this?
I actually read a National Geographic article today
So,
about this.
so I don't. And this was like probably a year ago. I don't remember why it came up, but it was probably NPR. I was listening to it, and they were talking about, there's all kinds of reasons why black people don't go into the woods, like historically, they don't come out and blah, blah, blah. And then also how you shouldn't make black people feel uncomfortable if you do see them camping somewhere. Like if you see them camping, you shouldn't ask them, what are you doing here?
Oh my
Like,
God, I
where
remember
did
this
you...
podcast.
Yeah, like
Oh.
where are you from? Like
Yes.
why? Like you shouldn't ask them any of those questions because it's going to make them feel like they don't belong there. It was about the state parks. It was about the
Yep.
national parks and the disproportionate amount of minorities that were visiting the national parks. That's what it was. And so they're trying to incentivize more minorities to go to national parks. And they're subscribing. Part of it is because white people make minorities feel uncomfortable when they are camping because we ask them, why are you here? Why are you in the woods?
I feel like not everything can be white people's fault.
If you try
That's it.
hard enough.
That statement alone, Larry, makes you a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. I constantly just say it like that's like this whole Black Lives Matter thing. I was just like not everything can be like white people's. It's crazy. I think it's you guys are experiencing like the monolith, like how you got like something will happen, like a white person in North Dakota will accidentally bump into a black person, and then like you're racist because of that event. It's been one of my least favorite things. It's like the group think that's being created, and I think that's probably the most interesting thing. It's like I never go camping, but like I've never, on that same note, thought like the reason I don't go camping is because a white person made me feel uncomfortable while camping.
Or that they might.
Yeah. I have a feeling that part of the reason you don't go camping is because you like to shit on a toilet.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people's thing
Yeah.
is. It's like, well, I don't
Is there toilets?
like
Is there a
there's
shower?
these things out there that I don't.
Yeah.
I like these things in my house, so I stay in my house because I don't want to go and shit in a hole in the woods.
Which is crazy because I actually the best sleep I ever get's out in the field.
Hard yes.
Yeah,
Hard
yeah.
yes. The best nights of sleep I've ever had are out in the middle of nowhere, 10 miles away from the nearest road. And
Yeah,
that is
100%.
it is great. And if you wouldn't even have to ask me, and I will bring you out to a place where I will make both of you guys feel very uncomfortable and very uneasy about living there. And the minute you get out there and you soak it all in, you're never going to want to go back to civilization ever again.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. But you
He's
had
like, no, I've
me
done
until
that before.
You had me until the last part. Never want to go back again. I think I'll want to go back.
I like the internet. That's kind of a drawback.
Speaking of groupthink, Larry, did you happen to watch any of that documentary that I sent to you?
Not yet. It's fired up in the queue. So
Yeah.
Benjamin Boy stuff.
Yes.
in all honesty, my wife's best friend came down, so she's just been here, so I've been entertaining her. But my wife comes back tomorrow, so wholeheartedly gonna knock it out.
I cannot recommend it enough. I started watching it again just this week, and so I am almost done with that. I'm probably on like part 19 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, it's 23 parts. Like I said, they're all relatively short, like between 15 and 30 minutes. So it's not, like
the
a
dog's going nuts.
40-hour, documentary or anything. But that guy, Benjamin A. Boyce, he was going to Evergreen at the time, graduated 2 weeks after the protests happened around Brett Weinstein. And that whole time up until he releases this documentary, he was making YouTube videos and reporting on what was happening and like what was happening with the staff up to like 3 or 4 years prior to this protest, and how they essentially taught all of these students to do exactly what they did and then facilitated it along the way and supported it. And it's crazy. It's crazy, this documentary.
Yep. Dug their own graves.
And I've never actually heard of. Well, let me first. I've never seen the documentary, but I've heard of Evergreen. Like I've heard of the event, and I've heard it like pontificated on. So that's why I was excited, because I was like, "Oh shit!" Like you brought it up. I was like, "I've heard of this."
And the vast majority of it is footage of live streams of the protests themselves. So it's unedited footage. It's all straight from the protests. And Benjamin A. Boyce, he
Scary.
what is it called when you write out the closed captions for something that has a name?
I would just say
Dictate it. He dictates it out, something, whatever. So it's all written, so you can read everything that they're doing, and it's from the beginning of the protest all the way to the end, and then all of this past context, video footage of orientations and classes and things like that from teachers that were there. I mean, it's crazy. the blatant racism that was exhibited over those several days of protest in 2017. I mean, you're talking about groups of black people, black students that have white students in front of and behind them, commanding white students to do something. White people, speak. Talk to this person. Like, you don't need to be doing that. You're black. You don't need to put in this type of emotional labor. Like, it's crazy. The ranking, they're talking about a bunch of Brett Weinstein's students, Weinstein students were talking about, they went into some of these like struggle sessions that happened, and the moment they walk into the room, they're told all of the chairs are for people of color. If you're white, you need to stand. All of the food in here is for people of color. Only people of color are allowed to speak. And like ranking people, if they weren't dark enough, they weren't allowed to speak. It's craziness, absolute insanity. School sanctioned segregation, as the president of the school stands there and allows it to happen and doesn't say shit. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
That makes me
Racism's bad.
uncomfortable. That makes me uncomfortable.
It's really dark.
Like,
yeah.
No matter which form racism takes, it's always extremely uncomfortable witness.
Yeah.
Whether it's directed at white folks or anybody else. It's always terrible to watch happen, and you just get this gut-wrenching feeling inside of you. Because no human should be treated by the way they look. It just doesn't make sense to me.
There's even footage of one of the original struggle sessions where they requested that the chief of police for the school actually come in her plain clothes and unarmed, which is insanity. And there's like one exit and one entrance to this room, just one door, and there's a student there, an exchange student from China, right, who decides to speak up and is talking about, she's one of Weinstein's students, and she's talking about the Cultural Revolution and just how closely what's going on there mimics the Cultural Revolution that happened in China. She's from fucking China, obviously knows what's happening. Another student of color who isn't black, right? You can't see who it is because it's from across the room. They're telling her, well, we aren't black, so we can't tell these people, as people of color, we need to recognize we aren't black, so we don't know what the black experience is. So we can't tell these people how they perceive what your professor is saying, and like what you're saying about this doesn't matter because we aren't black. You're Chinese. But you're not black, so it doesn't matter, even though this is all about centering people of color and making sure people of color are heard and they have a place to say what they want and be heard. Fuck what you're saying, even though you're from fucking China.
This is why, actually, the what's the right word I'm looking for here? The divorce from the sanctity of free speech is so important. Is because at the end of the day, every individual from every race underneath the sun that lives in America is going to have a different experience of how they grew up and lived life and how they were treated. And it is the reason why it's so important to have that free speech is so that when you guys are talking or when people are talking, they can voice to use their terminology, their lived experience.
Yeah.
And everybody can hear it and they can understand. And then they could possibly learn something from it and be a better person on the backside. Because everybody, there may be a person out there that has experienced a lot of racism in their life or something like that. And like, if they were able to explain to you what happened to them and talk about it, you will have a better understanding than if you just say, you have to carte blanche, just bow down to every BIPOC person around because of institutionalized racism in everybody's experience. It's so much better to understand every individual person's personal experience and what they've gone through to truly understand how they're feeling, and if you decide that that's not okay to convey that expression anymore because somebody from China whose parents might have lived through the Cultural Revolution cannot voice their concerns about what they're saying, what they're seeing, you're paving the way for it to happen again and again and again. And it's one of the worst tragedies to see come out of the critical theory movement and the critical race theory and all the other critical theory subdivisions and all this crap. It's come out of that. It's because we're silencing everybody who's got something to say.
Yeah.
100%.
It's terrible.
Again, we can't say things, and we just evolve from there. I wholeheartedly agree.
In one of the episodes, he even ties in footage from the Cultural Revolution, talking about how it started with students, you know, and like footage of fucking young children like beating the shit out of their teachers and telling their teachers that they're pieces of shit, and it's crazy, dragging them out on the streets and putting dunce caps on them and throwing rocks at them and shit, and I mean just insanity, you know.
That's
and
about 2 hours before they were dragged behind the chemical sheds and shot.
And the idea that people in modern America are able to see footage like that and then deny any connection between that and what's happening here, right, is insanity. Like, and so he'll tie it in. It's just footage of these Chinese students, black and white footage of them screaming to their teachers, and then footage of these struggle sessions. You know, the president of the college being screamed at, told that he needs to put his hands down while he's talking because it's a microaggression for him to talk with his hands.
It's like a disassociation from like facts. Like that's how I see it. Just like you're disassociating from like, because like we all agree that you have to like learn history so it doesn't repeat itself. What we don't say is like we have to learn as much history as we can because we don't repeat itself. Because everyone's just got, well, this has never happened here. But we don't be like, okay, but has it happened in Cuba? Has it happened in China? Has it happened in Russia? Has it happened in the Middle East? Has it happened in Europe? And like as you start covering the whole time, it's like no one's predicting anything. We're just we're spotting patterns. So that's what I try to say. I'm just like, yo, like this is, there's not a healthy thing in the world that has started this way.
Yeah, there was a point at which I was going to kind of make this a hill to die on this week, but I just probably better to have it naturally put out there at this point. I was watching the Tim Pool IRL podcast at some point this week, and do you ever watch that show?
Religiously.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry. I don't watch the IRL podcast. I watch his normal info stuff. Yeah, I have too many podcasts to watch, but.
Well, there's a guy he's become a regular on that show. He's a long-haired hippie named Ian, right? And usually he kind of exists to throw some wild shit out there and Tim to kind of dunk on him and say, shut up. But he made a point the other day about, you know, kind of tied to all this critical theory stuff and how long it's kind of been around and what it looks like, and its ties to Marxism and communism and all this good stuff. And he made a point that I started to think on when he said, you know, essentially, the Cold War has never really ended, because what was the Cold War actually about, right? The Cold War, we like to put the big scary Russia on top of the Cold War because they were the communist stronghold at the time. You know, you had the Soviet Union out there that formed, you know, after World War II and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And, you know, we fought the Korean War, we fought the Vietnam War, and everything to stave off communism. McCarthyism in the United States was to stave off the spread of communism.
Understand?
Well, we kind of fell into a couple decade long, maybe even a little longer than that, lull in this Cold War against the ideology of communism and collectivism.
Okay.
Yep.
And that is the bridge.
Okay.
I didn't want to even try to
No.
via
That
text.
makes much, because to me, and I think I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just saying, at this point, I can't argue that the Cold War has not ended, because at this point, it has just reared its head with another face. We have the People's Republic of China, run by the Communist Party of China.
Yeah.
The Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. But then we have the ideology spread throughout America, for one, and Canada, and all the Western nations have this idea of communism and Marxist thinking through the Frankfurt School of Economics and everything that comes with the Soviet bloc and that communist ideal. We're still fighting today. It just wears a different mask.
Yeah.
So I will make the argument now that the Cold War never ended, and it has just reignited itself, and that's what we've been talking about today, and that's what we've been talking about for a long time. It just wears different masks and presents itself in a different fashion.
And I think a lot of people, when you talk about the Cold War, me specifically, and that's why we had, because you'd mentioned that, and I was like, I don't really know what you're talking about. Well, and not even just that. I think most people just think about the arms race. You know, the Cold War was the Cold War because it would never actually popped off. You know, and that's like in today's modern, you know, American education, that's like what I think, you know, most people know or think of as the Cold War. It's just the nuclear arms race that happened. Just that type of shit. And then when that cooled off, we're like, well, that's cool. The Cold War is over. But I think you're right. And
the anti-fascist partition fell.
Right, but I think you're right. At its core, the Cold War was a Cold War because it was with an enemy that is an ideology. It's not one group of people. It is a moving ideology that has spread from Russia around the EU into Asia, into different centers or different parts of the world that we have continued to combat to this day. And now it's infiltrated itself again within our institutions. Our
Military to the government.
our fucking military, our government,
When we're flying BLM flags around our world, at our embassies around the world, that has what does the BLM flag have on there? The fist, the people's fist.
No, the BLM flag was the one they had was just the black and white bars of Black Lives Matter. Yeah, there was no fist on that.
So,
it says Black Lives Matter. Yep.
Yeah. Which
I had to look it up. I literally had pushed it out.
I thought it was a joke. When I first saw it, I thought it was a joke. Like, legitimately, I thought it was not real.
It seems like something that should be non-existent, man. Like, we got the American flag, and up underneath that, we put the POW flag, all right? I think we're all good with that.
Yeah.
If you really want to get crazy, let's throw the Gadsden flag up there. Let's all go crazy. But now you're flying a flag that at its roots stands for the dissolution of the American ideal.
Yep.
Right there. Right underneath that.
Right, because that flag in particular is not for the idea that Black Lives Matter. That's for the group Black Lives Matter, which is admittedly at its cause, by its founders, admittedly a Marxist ideology and a Marxist group.
Who happen to have found that capitalism kind of is sweet.
Oh, God.
Who part of their goal is to, like you said, is to dissolve the American nuclear family. Like, that is part of their intention. And so for embassies around the globe to fly the flag, right? It's
that's rough.
I wouldn't, but you could argue all day about people saying Black Lives Matter versus flying this flag, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to see either of them, but if my choice is one of the two, I'll take the motherfucker saying it all day over having the goddamn flag on the embassy representing the entirety of the country when only a small fraction of us actually believe in that particular group of people, right? We've spoken many of time. I think everybody in America agrees, of course, Black Lives Matter. Of course they do.
Yes.
No fucking shit. Of course they do.
And that's that difference between those people saying the slogan because
that's the difference.
They see it.
Yes.
And they understand that there's definitely something to be done there.
But to fly a flag in support of that particular group, I think is a horrible idea.
It's terrible.
Extremely dangerous.
And it sowed a lot of division. Like I know for a fact, like in the military, like that's probably the bubbling thing that people aren't talking about enough is like how this is going to affect our defense structure, because like, we are innately bonded and binded around the flag, right? We're binded around like the uniform, and we're not supposed to see color. I think where we've been talking about like CRT, like moving into schools, moving into colleges, moving into workplaces, but like we have not talked about like it's already moved into the military.
Yeah.
And so like that's going to take an effect. I think the most interesting thing I'm excited to look at with the combination of free money, free programs, free schooling, and then this on top of it, what do the numbers look like for our accumulation force, our building force, like our recruits? Because again, it's going to affect it, because again, everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't join the military if you won't fight. But I can tell you that that's not why people join. Like, we fight for each other because like, like it's my fucking dude. But like people join for all various different reasons. It's supposed to be okay. But like, if even if you got rid of the contingent of people that needed to join to go to college, like that's people. If you people that need a steady income, well, that's people. Like everybody's needed. So I think that's going to be interesting to like move in. Like that division lasting, it's going to be there because like you want to bond. Like you need that cohesion. You need things bigger than you that matter so we can bond on and grab onto it. And I think that's where it's doing the most damage right now.
Yeah. And any push against it, right? Whether it's in the military or in schools is labeled as racist, right? And we saw it in the video that you sent to us that was showed to you guys, where they're talking about even libertarianism, and extremism and like all these crazy ideologies.
Oh, yeah.
So you could see it there in the military, and then in schools you have like Nicole Hannah-Jones and Ibram X. Kendi, right? I have seen both of them. One of them say it, and the other one retweet it, right? That racism exists in America and white supremacy exists because there are bills that are trying to ban 1619 Project in schools, but not the 1776 Commission.
Yeah.
That's because no one, now that it's canceled on a federal level, no one is trying to institute the 1776 Commission in any type of public schooling. There are still people are still actively trying to put CRT and the 1619 Project at the base of historical education in many schools around the country. That's why there are laws to fight that. Not because people are racist, because that ideology is racist. And no one is even talking about the 1776 Commission anymore, which admittedly, right, I even looked it up last night because I started to think about this. Admittedly, is deeply troubling. It's not good, right? It's not great. The 1776 Commission is rooted, I believe, in a tired ideology of American exceptionalism. Right? It is
like
deeply rooted in America is the best. We always have been. To deny it, you're a piece of shit. And that's what we're running with. I don't think that's the way to teach American history. I think you can teach that America is arguably the greatest country to ever exist, and also we have made some horrible fucking decisions that have led to the death of people domestically and around the globe. And it's important to understand all of those things, to understand the positive benefits and the negatives and the true importance that this nation has had on the globe, right? You have to understand all of those things, not one and not the other, all of them together to see what's really going on, right? Because it's just as important to know that we have spent 20 years fighting a horrible, fucked up war in the Middle East. Just as important it is to know how many people died and that Americans stormed the beaches at Normandy to fight fascism and defeat it from the globe, right?
Antifa.
Yep.
Just as important to know both of those things.
Yes.
Right?
It's important to remember that you should love America not because of her past, but in spite of her past, because of where we're at today. If that is not the gleaming hope of the entire world, I don't know what should be. The fact that we could come from where we started to where we are now, that is about the most beautiful thing in the history of human existence on this planet. And I don't understand that. I don't think there's a close second anywhere around. France likes to say, we started the revolution and blah, blah, blah. We brought West. Well, yeah, but you killed everybody. And it's just.
Les Mis is a great movie.
Les Mis is a great movie. I will say that. Watch the new one, babe. It's good. Hugh Jackman get up there belting it out.
He gets after it. He gets after it.
Russ Crowe, you know what I'm saying?
He doesn't need to sing. That's fine.
I like that whole shit.
South Park had it right, man, when they did that thing from Russell Crowe singing all the time.
So funny.
So, America's awesome, even though our past is pretty shady. The reason that we're awesome is because we made a shit ton of mistakes, and then we learned from them.
Yeah.
That's why America's awesome.
It's the chase of improvement. I wholeheartedly believe that. It's just, it's what it is.
It's part of that struggle. Everybody's got to struggle, including the country, to become a better country and a better person. If we ain't struggling, we ain't striving.
I was wondering how you were going to end.
I don't know.
I wasn't sure what was going to rhyme with that. Wasn't sure what was coming on the back end, so that's pretty interesting.
I think struggling and striving, that worked out in the end. I pulled that out.
Yeah. You're funny. All right, boys. Is there anything else that you want to get in here? Is there anything else that you want to get off your chest? Anything else that you want to say?
No, I think I good. I think emotionally I got it out. Jinsaki sucks. All right,
we'll say.
Sorry.
She is the worst.
I think we know. Larry said he's got he's going to break it into 5 parts. His theory.
Yes.
Might be his first 5 episodes of whatever show he's going to start.
Yeah, listen, I
just
can't
going to throw that in there a little bit.
Listen, we start off live. I'll send you guys a proposal because I'll probably be under your guys' network, but I'm pretty excited about this. It's going to be a little bit of a passion project, so that's what's going to come.
I could produce the shit out of anything, bro. If you need help with anything, software, editing, I'm your boy. I got you.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely. I think I don't know if we already talked about it. I've already made it up. We'll do. I'll basically sign with Salt Street Networks, and it's gonna be your guys' second podcast.
I've become an idea guy. That's kind of where ideas is where I'm living.
There it is.
100%.
Colin is really good at making it all into a reality, and I'm
Yes.
like, you know what would be really cool
But I rely on
if
this
we
guy.
did this.
So you guys hear each other out. No, like I said, I love doing this. I love coming on here. I can't wait to come back on here in 2 months. I'm gonna have more material coming in. I'm about to be ready to go. Hopefully, we have launched a podcast that we can announce by then, and yeah, we'll get ready to go.
I am so excited for the future.
I think that next week I will formally restart the sports segment. Everything seems to be. Last year we didn't really do it because shit was so weird.
Let's just
hashtag
COVID. That's why.
Yeah, but I think that everything looks to be on the up and up now. I think we can formally restart the sports segment, and we'll get things going.
Oh,
So
and NFL is starting to. There's
I
some stuff
had
brewing.
Joe texted me this week. Joe from our fantasy league texted me last week. It's like, are we doing fantasy this year? Like, are we still doing this? And I was like, fucking absolutely we are. And we're going to do an in-person draft again. Like, it's going to be fantastic. The only time I talk to Joe is for fantasy. I have not heard from him since the season ended last year. I have not heard from him. And he texts me and he's like, are we still doing this? Absolutely we are. You're going to show up to somebody's house you've never met before and hang out with us for 5 hours while we draft? Absolutely I am.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him in a year. Still going to do it. It's
I like it. I'm a big fan.
Well, I haven't seen him in 2 years now because last year we drafted over the phone, so I didn't even.
Oh, that's right. We did it all online last year.
Because everyone, I wasn't going to call 12 people and ask them how they felt about an in-person draft. So I was just like, we're just going to do it over the phone this year. I don't want to deal with any of the bullshit. Some people had like new babies and stuff, and it was a whole.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Bring the babies.
That's so.
Bring the babies.
So now that we're all good, everyone who wants to get vaccinated, going to get vaccinated. If you don't want to at this point, you're not going to. It's fucking fantasy draft time. So
Let's do it.
And I think logistically, because Larry, this has very little to do with you, but it's going to it as of now. But just
I'm actually
because
kind of
you're here
offended
right
Larry's
now.
not in the fantasy league.
Well,
now.
remember he said that he's terrible at fantasy. Like that's just not really his.
Well, join the club, dude.
Shit. But
Listen, I don't know. I'm so erratic. I don't pay attention. I have like 7 things to do every single day, and
That's
I forget
true.
all 7 of them.
Yep.
next year he'll be in, right? Because we were talking about
Yes.
expanding the league, right, into 2 8-man leagues
Yeah.
that feed into this thing. I think logistically that's going to be really difficult to explain to people over the phone.
Yeah.
So I think we
Good
should
to
stick
do it
with
at the draft.
Yeah, I think we should stick with 14 this year, do one final draft at 14, and then during the draft before we will explain to everybody our grand scheme of separating into 2 8-man leagues that feed into a championship, and then we'll have a large pot of
hard.
Yeah, I think when it's like $900 or something like that now. I don't know exactly.
We'll be
but
good up there.
It's a good. What it's 14 people. 50.
Y'all are big balling.
So it's only like $800. But yeah, so
It's just volume, bro. Volume, decent amount of put in. It works out.
Y'all are billionaires out there spending that guape.
yeah, so
Part of that Salt Street Network.
and
Baby.
we'll talk about maybe bumping it up another $10 this year to go to a 60 piece.
Yep. Just keep the riffraff out. Just gotta
Call it
ride that
inflation.
line.
And then we'll be at $840. If we can get everyone to $60 a piece, we'll be at $840 in the pot. It's winner take all, $840. It's a beautiful prize if you win. And then next year we can go up to 16 people, and that will be another $120. That will be $960. We'll find another way to throw in $40.
Yep.
And we'll call it a cool $1,000 for whoever.
Yeah,
just
you
do
are
it,
the
so-
accountant right now. Like this is.
Was that?
beautiful
Did I
numbers.
just get all
Yeah,
that right? I was
yeah,
really
that was
concerned
good.
that I was going to fuck
That
it up.
was
So
good.
yeah, we'll find $40 somewhere, and we'll have it a cool G bar for whoever wins the 16-man draft, which will be fucking insane.
Be very intense. You
That'll
have to be
that'll
deep.
be
You would
good.
have to really know football. You have to dig deep for 16 man.
Well, no, that's the thing is that it's going to be 2 8-man leagues. Right now we have a 14, and we're going to send next year. We're going to add 2 more
Okay.
people and separate into 2 8-man leagues.
Okay.
So it'll be easier to do, but way higher stakes.
Yes.
Yeah. No. 100%. Okay. Yep.
So
Man, I'm
that's
so
where
excited.
that's where you'll come in is when we have 2 8-man leagues, It'll
So-
be easier to keep up with because the names will be bigger. It will be all big names pretty much.
Was the draft's going to be what, September?
It's August.
August?
It's always in August.
Yes,
It'll
sir.
actually probably be right around when he's here
Oh,
because
perfect.
we draft right around my mom's birthday, which is the 21st. So
So
the
if
draft
anything, Larry
will,
should just come hang out.
it might be like the
wow.
week before he comes.
Oh, okay.
So we may very well have our fantasy teams
gotta get that
drafted and
proposal
ready to
drafted
go. Yeah, we'll have to have a presentation.
Yep.
You know, like in
Elect
Step
members on the
Brothers,
board.
very Step Brothers-esque of what the fuck is their company called?
Oh, and Step
You know what I'm
Brothers?
talking about? In Step Brothers, they're doing the presentation at Brennan Huff's birthday.
I don't remember.
I don't even.
I haven't seen that in so long.
Prestige Worldwide.
There it is. There it is. Yep.
Prestige Worldwide. Wide. Yeah, exactly. So it'll be very Step Brothers-esque. It's going to be a great presentation.
It bodes well for our future.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, okay, with
All
that,
right.
I do have a closing line for this week. Do you guys have anything else that you want to say before we finish it out?
I think I'm good.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, I want to thank everyone again for watching us. Larry, thank you again for being here. It is always,
Thanks for having me.
This was great.
always
for having me.
fantastic to have you here. Again, you've been watching us. If you've been here the whole time on our YouTube at Salt of the Streets, leave us a comment, a like, share this with everybody so that we can start making millions and millions of dollars. It is inevitable, but obviously you want to get in on the ground floor.
That's right.
So
Taking investments.
yes, we have our own, obviously. You can find all this information, saltofthestreets.com. We have our own personal social media. I'm at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things, saltofthestreets.com. YouTube, Salt of the Streets. Instagram, Salt of the Streets. Facebook, fuck Facebook, Salt of the Streets. That's it. If you screenshot the review from the podcast, send it to me. Free autographed t-shirt. Wherever the fuck you want me to send it. Wherever you want.
Fuck yeah.
Worldwide,
Yeah.
baby.
The next time you see me, if I am not in Atlas gear, you know who the fuck to talk to. So there's going to be some
Listen,
gear
we'll
swaps.
circle back to that I think, after the supply issue is.
Yeah, we got to find out where the
That's right.
bottleneck's at,
That's
you
right.
know.
The bottleneck, yeah. So with that, you guys, here's what I tell you. You tax Herschel, Herschel will do violence to you.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, from a theological level, I like that.